Tasha, you got to be perfect. Even if you're not perfect behind the curtains, you got to be perfect on the stage because nobody wants to hear about your flaws.
We got a legend, a general, a Grammy Award winner, a soul saver, a mother, and a wife here on Hardly Initiated. Today, Tasha Cobbs Leonard, welcome.
I believe that the BET Awards, just like every other award that night, it went to the person whose song had the most exposure that year. Glow really gets the award, but God gets the glory. We were trying to have a baby. IVF treatments didn't work. It failed. We lost the baby. So it'll be like these promises. You gonna be good. Everything gonna be good. I know all of that, but I'm not gonna be good tomorrow. My heart is still gonna be broken tomorrow. I need some honest worship. And I just could not find that. The Grammys happened 7 days after my dad died. It was the highlight of my career. I'm winning all of these awards and people are celebrating my work. But my personal life, I just lost the greatest man in my life at the time. It was an opportunity for me to really test if I believe what I've been singing about.
Welcome to Hardly Initiated. It is your host, Tyshawn Jackson, in the building with my co-host, Ryan Ketchens.
Let me tell y'all, it's about to go down. I feel like we just elevated to the next level at this point.
This is a new level for us.
Shout out. Matter of fact, shout out to Hardly Initiated because we got one of the greatest.
Yes.
About to hit the stage with us. So
Congratulations.
Yeah.
shout out to ourselves when we introduce this one because it's special right here.
Absolutely. Congratulations to us. Okay, before we introduce. Matter of fact, and that's for y'all too, because we're going to make sure that y'all are blessed. I even found out that this sister actually watches the show too. How exciting.
Truly legendary.
Is that?
Yeah.
Speaking of legendary, we got a legend, a general, a Grammy Award winner, a soul saver, a mother, and a wife here on Hardly Initiated. Today, Tasha Cobbs Leonard, welcome to
What's going
Hardly
on?
Initiated.
What's
How you
poppin'?
feeling?
That was great.
Was it?
Yeah.
You deserve that.
Y'all killing it. I told you.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited. I'm a fan.
Thank you very
See,
much for
this
that.
the energy we like.
I
Yeah,
know.
we're going to have a good conversation.
It's all real.
I know. You know what? When you got people like this telling you that you're doing something right in life, that's when you know
Yeah.
that you on path and on purpose, y'all.
That's it.
Agreed.
On
That's a blessing.
purpose. Yes. Thank y'all for having me today.
Of
Absolutely.
course,
Yeah.
of course. Thank you for being here. Very excited to introduce you and this new album to the world that's coming out here today. So y'all better go ahead and stay tuned. We're going to let y'all know a little bit more about that, but we got to get a little bit more about this sister here today. All right. So just be patient with us. But before we get into it, got to let you guys know because it's a couple of them left, y'all. All right. The Renew the Mind Journal is here for you, y'all. Let me tell you, we put our time and energy in this thing. Touch that. Just touch it. What I feel like? What's that?
That's that velvet right there.
Is this velvet?
That's velvet.
This is nice.
When I tell y'all,
That's that
like,
exclusive.
so not only is
The real deal.
the external matches the internal, y'all. Many of us are just waking up. You're on Instagram, starting your day. You're jumping straight into work, and you don't have time for the most important things, y'all. You, God, intentionality, y'all. All right, so that's what this journal does. We put daily prompts in it. If you don't know how to journal, that's cool. We got daily prompts in there so you can start your thoughts off on the right day. Start the day with some purpose and intention so you can have some direction and not just let the day take you. All right, so the Renew Your Mind Journal, incredible journal for you to start off with, whether you're a beginner to it or you a veteran. So go ahead and get that today. The link is in the description, family, all right? Absolutely. Ryan is on point
It's on point.
today.
Yeah,
with the
listen, we
sounds.
got to get it popping. And you know what's crazy? Because, Tosh, I mean, you highly published. I mean, it was so much information we was able to find. Like, we was
So
really digging because we got to get prep for you.
Uh-huh.
Right? But Tyshawn was like, look, man, I want to talk about something that nobody else has talked about.
Right.
And I know he mentioned prior to the interview, the single life. Mm-hmm. So I want you to
Because
tell.
that's where a lot of our ladies are. I'm trying to cut
agree.
you
No,
off.
go ahead.
That's
Yeah.
where they at.
Yeah.
A lot of our people watching the show. We got a community right now. Shout out to the High Life.
Yeah.
Many of the people in there, they single, they figuring it out. It's certain challenges specific to being in that space and season of singleness. It's certain
right.
worries, doubts, and fears
That's right.
Yep.
specific to that space of life.
And the most vocal in terms of instruction and experience are women and men who are single. So we got a wife with us today.
Yeah.
So we need to get some of that wifely
Yes.
perspective on how to make decisions and, how to do the right thing.
That's a fact.
Yeah. And I know we've heard a lot of people quote this scripture, and I love it. It's a man who finds a wife. And I don't know if I thought about it like that when I was single, but now I get it, that a certain season of my life, I was just busy. I was one of those people who lived in what's next. I never stopped to celebrate. I know everybody talk about the Grammys, the awards, all that kind of stuff. I never lived in the moment. I was totally like sending out emails while something is going on. Like, did y'all do this? Did y'all do that? I never lived in the moment. So I was always super busy, always worried about what's going on in the church, writing songs, at rehearsals, doing all this kind of stuff. And so I love that you guys bring this up because I never have an opportunity to talk about the single life. I never really focused on dating. And to be very honest, I wasn't focused on preparing myself for marriage. I think back, even when I was younger, and my mother will tell you, because my parents, they were together, like she was 13. And they were the only two people they knew until the day my dad died. That was it. They were together forever. And I just never really talked about marriage. I wasn't the girl that sat down with my mom and talked about a wedding. It just was not my thing. I don't even know that I thought I would get married. Like, just to be honest, he over there, Kitty over there, like, but look at me. But I really did. People always prophesied to me about my gift. They said, I see your name in lights and all these things going to happen. I preached started preaching when I was 10. And I think I was just so focused on career and ministry that I never really stopped to think about, okay, life with a family and a husband. So it didn't really happen until I got older. So I'm pretty much a late bloomer. I got married when I was 36 because I was just so focused on career. I'm not saying anything is wrong with it because there are women who killing it. I was a boss. Right. Like I was just, focused on career. But I do believe that God has plans for our lives. And I think being spirit led was one of the things that I was really, really focused and intentional about. So though I may not have been thinking about it, I believe it was always on the mind of God for me. So I'm glad I didn't do it prematurely, though.
I think a lot of people who are just generally ambitious and hustlers find themselves in that same place.
Yep.
Where it's like work first, everything second.
Yep.
And I'm talking about even to your detriment. I'm talking about your health second.
Yes.
Your relationship second. Your family second. So when you think back of how you operated in that place, was it, I was on my purpose. This is what I was supposed to be doing. And everything else was in priority. It just wasn't a relationship. Or should preparing for marriage, should relationships have been higher on your priority list and you were just missing it because you were so focused on work? Which one was it?
I love what you just said about the things that we prioritize, because honestly, I don't know that relationships should have been higher. I think Tasha should have been higher. Because you're right. I was unhealthy. I was emotionally all over the place, had mental issues, depression, anxieties. So I would literally go and sing and preach and pray and watch people getting healed, set free. And I would go home for days, 3-4 days in the dark, covers over my head, crying, didn't know why, just plagued by rejection and depression. So I feel like I needed to prioritize Tasha more back then instead of, and I go back to even when my childhood, I talked about this a little bit, that, hey, I dealt with self-rejection from a very, very young age because there was always this expectation of perfection from me. So I kind of adopted that myself. Like, Tasha, you got to be perfect. Even if you're not perfect behind the curtains, you got to be perfect on the stage because nobody wants to hear about your flaws. We all want to hear about your gift. We want your talent. We don't want flaw Tasha. And so I adopted this culture of self-rejection. And so I can't even think, I think it would have been so abusive to bring someone into my life at that state. Like, and it probably was just God's protection that I wasn't so focused on dating because it just would have been bad. I didn't love myself enough to be able to love someone else.
Man.
I hit the line back there like, I get that. I want to ask you about these prophecies. you know, and I think you mentioned you was getting prophesized like over your talents, your
Yeah,
career, that type of
yeah.
thing. Looking back at that now, do you think well, I guess, how did you perceive it? Like, do you think it was healthy to kind of, you know, continue to kind of have these people speak over your life? Does it direct you more than you would like, if that makes sense? Yeah, does it have, how much influence does it actually have on how you go about living and making decisions?
Wow. I think one of the good things about me is that my parents were amazing. So they knew how to cover me from being exposed to unhealthy spiritual practices where someone would manipulate a gift to try to, you know, eventually say, hey, I was the one that spoke over her life. You know, I wasn't exposed to a lot of unhealthy spiritual ministry. So when I say prophesy, more than anything, I'm talking about my parents. They knew who I was. They knew at a very young age. So I can remember times where, and this really came to pass when I won my Grammy. My mother came home and she was like an extreme worshiper. So she would sit in the car and just spend time with God before coming in the house. And she came in one day and she just had tears running down her face. And she was like, God told me that people would know your name before they know your face. And literally, like when Break Every Chain came out, it was so massive. Nobody really knew this is a little country girl from Georgia who released this song, but they heard the voice. They knew it was somebody named Tasha, but if they saw me in the airport, they'd walk right by because they didn't know who I was. Even at the Grammys happened 7 days after my dad died. And I was sitting there just in an emotional mess, you know, and they called my name and I didn't move. So my cousin was sitting there beside me and they were like, you know, and the Grammy goes to Tasha Cobbs. And so I don't know where I was, honestly, mentally. And so she starts nudging me because, you know, after a while, if you don't move, they're going to play music. So the music started playing because nobody knew what I looked like. So they were like, hey, she's not here. So let's keep going until I got up. I had on this blue dress and I stood behind the podium. This girl from the country, nobody knew my face, but they knew my name. And I said, 7 days ago, the greatest man that I've ever known to walk the face of the earth, he went to be with the Lord. And I was like, I want to take this moment to honor his legacy. And I asked the entire academy to stand and honor my dad. And the entire academy stood and they started to clap. And all I could think was, number one, I had an opportunity on this stage to honor my dad. And then I thought about that prophecy my mom gave me, that these people don't really know me like that, but they know my voice, you know? So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
So when you said you were an emotional wreck, that was just like, was it like the depression you were describing there, or just like surprise, and like what emotions were we describing?
Well, grief at that point, because it was the highlight of my career. Break Every Chain had just been released that year, and so I was nominated across the board for 7 awards, a Grammy, Stellars, Dove Awards, everything happened back to back. So 7 days prior to that, I was in Nashville at the Stellar Awards, which is gospel's greatest night. This is, you know, it's a big deal. I had 60 seconds to sing Break Every Chain. 60 seconds, they had a satellite stage in the middle of the room. So, and that was such a blessing because literally I could look out and almost touch my parents. They were there just celebrating. They were super proud. And my dad, who was like an old school country preacher, so he was like the one who, he was there to open the church. He closed the church. He made sure that the air was off, thermostat. I don't know why pastors pay so much attention to thermostats. I guess because it costs a lot of money. Anyway,
right. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. So he made sure the air was off. And we went on vacations from Sunday evening to Saturday. We was always going to be back on Sunday. So the fact that my parents took off to be in Nashville with me made a huge statement to me that I know we pastor this church, but you will always come first. And so my dad was there and he was super, super proud. I sang Break Every Chain that night. I won 3 Stellar Awards that night. And we were up celebrating. William Murphy is my spiritual father. So William Murphy, and we're up in his room and, he was like, call dad. And I was like, okay, I don't think my dad is going to come here at 2:00 in the morning. So I texted him. My dad and mom came and we were just up laughing all night long. And I remember my dad got ready to leave, him and my mom. They were getting on the elevator and I had promised him, because I did an independent project before this one, and I asked my dad to be the executive producer. At the time, he didn't really know what that meant. It meant you need to pay for this. Right. And so he had this ongoing joke, like, hey, when the executive producer get his money back? Like, he would always tell me that. And so I would be like, you know, if I win some awards, Daddy, I'm going to give them to you. So my dad was also a carpenter. So he built like this curio for all of the awards that he believed his daughter would win before I ever won any.
Wow.
And so he was getting on the elevator that night. And I said, Daddy, wait. So I put the 3 Stellars in his hand. They were all in the box. I was like, take one out. I want to take a picture with you holding your awards. And so he took it out, standing in front of the elevator. Now he's beaming with pride. I snapped a photo of him. And my dad got on the elevator. And that was the last time I would see him on earth. The next morning, they were driving home. And he had a heart attack in the car and went to be with God. 7 days later would be the Grammys in LA. And so he kept saying to me, babe, Daddy's going to be with you in Nashville. I ain't going to LA, but I want you to go anyway. And so we all just thought, hey, you're not going to LA. We're surprised you go to Nashville. But he was really saying to me, the last lesson that he would leave with me, that life is going to get tough. And Daddy wants you to dig within yourself and do it anyway. So I wrote a book called Do It Anyway, based off of the life lessons that my dad taught me. So when I say I was in a fog of emotions, it was the highest. Like I was on a mountain, but I'm also emotionally in a valley because I'm dealing with grief. So yes, I'm winning all of these awards and people are celebrating my work, but my personal life, I just lost the greatest man, you know, who in my life at the time. And so that's what I mean. Like emotions were just everywhere.
How do you reconcile that? Like, did you feel different about God in that point? You got the most achievement that you've ever had in your career at that point, and then the greatest loss all at once.
Yeah, I think during that time, it was an opportunity for me to really test if I believe what I've been singing about.
Wow.
Like, we can talk about God being our peace and our comforter. It's easy to preach it, but it's not easy to live it out sometimes. And sometimes life throws you hard situations, and it's a tester when you face it, especially as an influencer or someone who stands on a platform to talk about God. Because years later, people would come to me and say, hey, your family, the way y'all walked it out. Because think about this. Like, I logged on after my dad died, and everywhere I saw his picture. You know, the people are blogging about it. People are online talking about it. It's in news. It's just everywhere. I couldn't get away from it. And so people would tell me later, the way that your family dealt with grief taught my family how to deal with it when my aunt died or when my uncle died, you know. And so I didn't see it then, but we were ministering to people even through that. Like, we grieve different in the kingdom.
Man, that was a great story, by the way. It's powerful. I want you to help us with this struggle here.
Okay.
Because you a married folk now, so you don't know about this. But I'm connected to my single folks.
Yeah.
And they struggling with sex.
Yeah.
Right? And you're in the music industry, which is probably one of the big sources of our sex culture right now.
Right.
But you were single up until 36 years old.
Yeah.
How did you manage temptation, lust, and battle all of that for 36 years of your life? What was that fight like?
I failed just like everybody else. Now, I won't say everybody. I do have some friends who literally, when they got married, they were virgins. That's not my story. That's not my story. And when a hard part about that story is because I just told y'all, my parents were together since they were 13.
Right.
So when they got married, they were the only 2 people they had ever been with. And so imagine sharing that with your pastor parents. Okay, I had sex the other day. My mom was like,
you would talk to your parents
y'all
about that?
crazy. Yes. So I know this is weird because I grew up Pentecostal holiness, you know, pastors, but my parents were always intentional about making sure the lines of communication were open for my brother and I. It was not a place of fear. I know, ain't that crazy?
Good parents.
Exactly. Because, you know, I was surrounded by the kids who had to wear the skirts, and I wore jeans. I played sports.
Wow.
I had a very, very balanced life. But they always made sure that we knew that God was the source of everything that we did. So I have to give a kudos to my parents. They did an amazing job. And it's hard. You know, it's hard for your flawed kids to come to you and share some issues that they have that you didn't deal with. Like, even to this day, my mom would be like, y'all crazy. I don't understand, you know, but it's kind of in a joking way. But I think we, my brother and I, because of our flaws, we help them to pastor flawed people. Because the truth is, all right, y'all pastored and y'all perfect, But these people that go to your church not perfect.
Right.
Neither are your children. So how are you going to handle that? Are you going to love us with the love of Christ? Are you going to be super judgmental and push us further away? And they made the choice to love us through those moments. So yes, my answer to you is I failed just like most other people fall. I had issues like with sexual temptations, just like most other people have. But one thing that I can say is that there was never a time that I ran back to God that he didn't accept me. And I know that we as humans, I won't even blame it on the church. I think sometimes it's just a natural response for us to feel like, man, God ain't gonna love me because I just did that. And it's so opposite of who he is. He's like, no, I want you to come to me with your flaws. As a matter of fact, when he teaches about worship, he says to worship me in spirit and in truth. A lot of times we skip over the honest part of who he is. He's like, I want you to be honest with me so I can deal with the root of that problem. But most time we come to him with mask on, with our hands lifted, like, oh, everything is good. And God is like, no, I want you to come to me with that hate. I want you to come to me with that depression and that fear so that I can deal with it in worship. But see, in church, we've been so used to being masked. And let's keep talking.
You got me motivated for real. Though. Yeah.
No,
I want
get
people
it.
to be encouraged because I think a lot of times people run away from God and they run away from our churches because we made it seem so like we can't touch it. Like I can't be that perfect, so I'll just be cool back here with my flaws. When God that's never been his approach. His approach is, hey, I hang out with the sinners because how else are they going to experience Christ? How else are they going to experience love unless I show it to them?
See, no, that's a very important message. I was just talking to my one homeboy who's, he's just kind of been in the world as of lately. And, he talking to me. He just brought this up out of nowhere. Somebody going through something, they be like, yeah, man, I'm trying to get back into church. I ain't say nothing about no church. I ain't say nothing about nothing. He just came out of nowhere. Yeah, I'm trying to get back in, because, man, I just been, a lot of sex, man. I've been smoking like every day. And, next thing he go into, and this was so deep. He said, because of that, I find myself, it's even hard for me to pray. Because he like, I don't even really want to come to God like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, which was just crazy to me. I'm like, okay, you got to get cleaned up before you get to God, right?
Perfect yourself.
He's like, I got to, because he's like, when I'm doing right, when I'm reading, when I'm off that, he said, all of a sudden I'm praying more, I'm doing these different things. But when I'm living like this, and I really feel like I don't even have control of myself, which is what he was communicating. Yeah. I feel like I can't come in this condition.
Wow.
And that's what you're communicating right now. Yeah. So that's very important for people to hear.
Yes.
Because somebody's in a condition where they feel like I'm not ready for God right now. I'm too dirty.
Yep.
Right now. I'm a little too dirty right now. And especially for the church.
Yes. Like, I don't want to be too preachy about it, but I mean, we base our lives on scripture. And I think about this. We all know the story about the prodigal son. Like, he went out, he took his riches and his wealth, and he spent it doing whatever, going to the clubs. I don't know what he was doing. But he found himself with pigs, like eating pig slop. And his first thought was, man, I got a father whose servants throw away stuff better than what I'm eating. I'm just going to get up and I'm going to go back to my dad. Listen to this part. And I'm going to say, I don't want to come as a son. I just want to come back as a servant. But his father met him and was like, but you're not a servant. You're a son. And this whole time, I've been waiting on you to come back with a robe and a ring like the king that you are. Like, literally, that is such a depiction of how God loves us. Because sometimes in worship, that's how we approach him. I don't want to come as a son because you might not love me for what I did last night. So let me just act like a servant. And a servant, they hold their heads down. They feel like they're less than. But God is like, no. I see you as a queen. I see you as my daughter, as my son. And I've been waiting here with a robe and a ring to crown you for who you are. Like, just like I love you no less because of what you did last night. But because you came to me with truth, I'm going to love that out of you. Like, the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sin. And there's no way that we can clean ourselves up.
Facts.
So many people have tried it. But you find yourself digging the hole deeper because that's a God way. and we're trying to carry what he died for that. Like, he died for us to be cleansed by his blood. We can't do it ourselves.
Wow.
Come dirty, fellas.
It's cool.
cool.
You got an inheritance
It's cool.
waiting on you. Exactly.
It's cool.
Inheritance is waiting on you, no matter what you've done.
All right.
Now, I want to ask you about this, and you let me know if I'm mistaken. But in 2021, you dropped a song, "Gotta Believe."
Yes.
What was the inspiration behind that song?
Oh, so during that time, we were trying to have a baby, my husband and I, and it just wasn't working. We went to the doctors. We found out that I have what's called endometriosis, and it's just a buildup of scar tissue in the uterus that prevents the natural birth. You know, so it just kind of messes everything up. And so when we found that out, I decided that I would go to a specialist. So for a year, every month we would fly from South Carolina to Houston so that I can get injections to clear up endometriosis in my body. And during that time, NPR reached out, and they were just trying to release music that was inspirational to people during the pandemic. And so they said, you know, we would love to, you know, what Tasha's dealing with in her life right now. And I think people were just thinking, oh, just release a song about sunshine so that people
pick me up.
Yeah,
right. For the
pick
world.
me up. And I just had the hardest time trying to figure out, what am I going to write about? And I just had this feeling like, why don't I write about what we are really dealing with? And so I went to my office, and I was just like, the first line says, I just got to believe that there's goodness around the corner. Something better is in store for me. I never thought for ever that song was just going to impact people the way that it did, not just for the pandemic, but it spoke directly to people in situations that may have been similar to mine, or just may have been dealing with life. And so I guess I'll finish the story. After that, we finally went through IVF, and the IVF treatments didn't work. It failed. We lost the baby. And it was 3 days prior to me being scheduled to go to Nashville to record an album called Royalty. So I'm thinking, going into this recording, I had put on crowns on the photo shoot, and I'm thinking I'm gonna be talking about, we are royal, you got it, you know, just like we were talking about the prodigal son.
Right.
I never thought ever that I would be going into the recording of that album questioning my faith, because you talked about my faith during the time of losing my dad, but losing that baby, that was the one that got me. Like, my faith was shattered. I immediately started to question, but what about the word that was spoken over me, that me and Kenny are gonna have a son, we're gonna have a baby, you promised me this, and why would you take it away? Like, I had all of these questions, and I just have to be honest, because I believe that many people deal with these seasons in silence because they don't want to be judged. Like, you questioning God? Yes, God can handle our questions. He's God. Nothing that I do is going to take him off of his throne. So I went to Nashville anyway. That was one of the things that I really knew that I was supposed to do. Go to Nashville anyway. I didn't know how I was going to have the strength to do it. I was questioning my faith. Physically, I was swollen just from the injections. I was in pain. Just emotionally all over the place. So how in the world am I going to do a recording that would encourage people to believe when I don't know what I believe right now? And on top of that, it's during the pandemic. So we can't have nobody in the room. So I can't even hide behind the applause of an audience, because there's nobody in there. I'm at the Ryman, the historic Ryman in Nashville, and it's just me, a band, singers, and my doubt. But I knew I was still supposed to record this album. I didn't even go to rehearsals. For days, I was like, I told Kenny, I'm not going to rehearsals. I don't know why I'm here. I don't believe it. It was either the second or third day, I decided I would get up and go to rehearsals. And I walked in, and there's a song on that album too. It's called, the song says, "You're going to get the glory out of this." And I just happened to be walking in when they were singing that song. And my team, they didn't know we had gone through IVF. They didn't know we lost the baby. But immediately when I walked in, they sensed something was wrong. I got to pause right there. It is so important to surround yourself with people who know how to pray for you when you can't pray for yourself.
Right.
They stopped everything they were doing. Some of them went over to Kenny. They started praying for him. Some of them came to me without any knowledge of what we were going through. They knew it was something. And in that moment, I think that was what gave me the little bit of strength that I had in order to stand on that stage and record that album. The album is called Royalty, and it's not my most streamed, it's not the most sold, but anytime people come to me and say, man, I was listening to you when I was going through depression, you got this album called Royalty. And that album helped me get out of that season. Like anytime people come to me when they're in a dark place in their lives, they always reference that album. And I know that I had to go through that season for other people to have a tool to use to help them recover from their seasons.
Man, when I tell you,
Thank you for sharing that.
no, thank you for sure, because there's a lot of people who, it's almost like the Mike Tyson quote. You know, you got a plan until you get punched in the face. And you got faith until you get rocked enough. And certain situations will rock and test your faith more than others. But I'm curious to know, why was your childbirth so connected to your faith in that way, where when it was not successful, that shook your faith? Why was that the event?
I believe that's a great question. I've never been asked that, but it's while you were asking it, I believe that it was because of me already having insecurities. Like I had insecurities, number one, why do I have this endometriosis as a woman? So here I am. Remember, we got to go back to, I've had all these years where I'm focused on career. Now this one time where I put family first, my heart gets broken. Everything is okay as long as I'm choosing to do ministry and as long as I'm choosing to stand before people and encourage them. But it's this one time where I decide, okay, God, I choose this for my family. It doesn't happen. And I think that was the connection, that I did this for Tasha and Kenny. This is something that was supposed to happen for us, not for the masses. And why did this fail when I wasn't focusing on something that was solely for you, which is absolutely off, because even in having children and raising a family, it's not just about you. People are watching, and it also brings glory to God. The family is actually the first ministry. So I think now that you even asked that question, my thoughts towards it probably was off from the beginning, that this ain't about you. It's not about Kenny. This is still about me, you know? But I feel like the human, like just my natural response was, man, the one promise that I had that was for me and my family, that failed.
You know, so many families are going through very similar situations. And, you know, women in particular can have childbirth be such a very important part of their identity as a woman and as a wife. And I'm just very curious between what the dynamic was between you and your husband, Kenny. You know, what things did he do, you know, to support you during that time period, and kind of what was going on between you guys?
Everything. He did absolutely everything. And I love this, to talk about this part of that story, because everybody was focusing on me. Is Tasha okay? They would call him to check on me. I mean, he would be talking to our pastors and our coverings, and he would receive wisdom from them of what to do and how to, you know, he handled me with such care, so very gentle. And I remember it was a couple months afterwards, we were at dinner with our friends Tim and Breland Bowman. And I remember us sitting there, and while we were talking about losing a baby, Tim looks at Kenny and says, bro, how are you? And immediately I thought, oh my God, I never once stopped to ask my husband, how does your heart feel about this? Because everybody always puts the focus on the woman who went through, even Kenny, he put so much attention towards me that he didn't take time to see if he was okay. You know, and so I love that question, because I think a lot of times men get overlooked in situations that are heartbreaking because they have to be strong for the women in their lives. But I would really, anybody that's going through that season, I think my encouragement to them would be take care of one another. And don't allow it to be too lopsided. Even though he was great in that season, I feel like I could have been better at covering him. Even though I was just so destroyed and broken, I believe that, hey, my love for him should have also been to look after his heart. So, you know, I'm always honest about when I'm right and when I'm wrong. Y'all probably love that about me. But listen, I feel like in that situation, I could have done a little bit better to cover him, you know? So I would encourage women who are going through that season to do it together. You're stronger together.
Cover your mans there, man. Big shout out to husband Kenny, man.
He did.
You know,
that.
the men are really showing up in your life. Like when you talk about your dad, and it's crazy because both, you know, Tasha and I grew up, you know, without fathers in the household. And even just hearing how he took care of you, it's like really inspiring.
Wow.
Yeah,
he did. He
Yeah.
did a great job. Yeah. Both Kenny's very similar to my dad. Now that would be one of my prayers, probably my mother's prayer, is that my mother was so spoiled. So like when my dad died, my mother had to learn how to do everything. Like he didn't let us, he pumped the gas, super old school. Like my mom, she worked 30 minutes away. My dad would drive to where she was to put gas in her car. He's that kind of guy, just super old school protector. And when I got married, Kenny had very similar just ways that he would respond to covering me that were very similar to my dad. But then you go back into history, his grandfather was that way. It's like his grandfather was a man's man. Like he drove trucks, but when he came back, he made sure that he spent time just, you know, giving Kenny all of these lessons in his life. So I really feel like that was one of the silent prayers that I had whenever I was leaning into maybe I will get married.
Right.
That would be like, man, let him be kind of like my daddy.
This what before I transition into your career a bit, I want to learn about how this very ambitious, busy woman actually transitioned into a wife. Because one thing I know is there's a level of intention when you seriously consider to make somebody a life partner that you have to have in that process for you not to be just, you know, making some foolish decision or even mishandling that person.
Yeah.
You got to even handle them with intention. How did that transition go of you going from single, solo, ambitious woman, just taking care of myself to now a woman who's now considering a husband in this new role and position as a wife now?
Yeah, I love that question. And two things came to mind when you asked it. And I would talk to parents right now because my mentor says, much is taught, but most is caught. So I believe watching my mother be a wife and a mother, even when I was younger, it became a part of the foundation of who I was. So even though I was driven, I was a boss, at the core of who I was a foundation that was sure on being an amazing wife, knowing how and when and where to submit, knowing how to cover a family. And when I say cover, I mean, like, my mom says this thing all the time, like, the man is the head of the house, but the woman is the Holy Spirit in the house. Like, we get insight sometimes before y'all see it. And so I had a chance to watch that my whole life. And though I grew up and became like this career-driven person, it was still in my foundation that I know how to do this because I caught it from my mom. You know, and then I am very intentional about mentorship. So I had men and women in my life. Like before I ever met CeCe Winans, I would just study her. Like I just think she's just so dope. Like she's so amazing. And the way that she carries herself, the way that she represents God well, but I love the way that she loved her husband. Even though she was like this global legend icon, when she was with her husband, you can see that right now I'm wifey. Like so I would study people like that, and I would have men in my life like William Murphy or William McDowell, all of these people who were great husbands and would share with me stories about, you know, their lives and their relationships. So I would just listen. I would listen. Oh, that's what men like. That's what men want. That's when I would study language. Yeah. Like I'm very what's the word I'm looking for? Intentional about language. Because sometimes men ain't gonna say a full long sentence. They might say one or two things, and you gotta read between the lines. Like I know if my husband keeps saying, man, if I could just take a nap, I'm feeling tired. Like, I need to create a space in my house that gives him peace so that he can rest, so that he doesn't drop the ball when it comes to our family.
Way to give an example.
Yeah, that's good.
I love because sometimes we could talk, and some people think that this stuff can just be airy fairy, and some women don't even like to hear that.
Yeah.
Women,
I know.
I'm not no mind reader. He need to tell me what he want, but
it
you
don't work
actually
He
break
is telling you. Yep.
Right.
So the information ain't always direct.
It's not always direct.
Hey, babe, create a space for me
See,
so I
y'all
can
not
not
gonna
drop
do
the ball
that.
for my
But you gotta be-
Y'all
gotta
not
into
gonna
it.
do that.
Yeah.
it's just how you're made. We're made totally different.
Yep.
And I think you have to be intentional about learning the language. Ask questions. When it's on the off season, when y'all ain't mad, when you ain't arguing, when you ain't fighting, ask questions like, what do you mean when you say something like this? Or what? How would you tell me? Like, one day my husband asked me a question. He was like, do you give me, this is so funny. He was watching, it was like something on Instagram, and he laughing over there because he know what I'm about to say. And these ladies was like saying, this is my cue when I'm ready to have sex. Like, this, I'm gonna do this when I'm ready to have sex. And so he came to me, he was like, what you do when you ready to have sex?
That's a great question.
I think it's important to
Yeah.
have those kinds of conversations, because when it's on, then I know that he's expecting this, and vice versa. And even in heated, like if you're having a disagreement, even in disagreements, I know how far to go because we've had conversations offline. Like, hey, don't do that. That's offensive to me.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that. I feel like that's disrespectful. So it's only so far that I'm gonna go, because even when I'm mad, I respect and I honor you. And I'm not going to do something to intentionally try to hurt you or try to disrespect you, because in off season, we talked about it.
Man,
That's good, right?
there you go.
Intuition,
that's how y'all know.
ladies. Right.
Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit. I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
So,
man.
let me talk a little culture
Let's
with you
go.
now.
Come on.
Let's talk some culture. Because one of the biggest conversations right now, and I'm so happy we sitting with a Grammy Award winner.
Right.
So this is some really good perspective here. Because so far, right now the gospel community pissed off.
Are they?
They pissed off right now.
Okay.
Many of them at least.
Mm-hmm.
You've had many people voice their opinions about our good, strong sister, Glorilla, going out there and winning that award this year.
BET Award for best gospel artist.
For the best gospel artist.
I don't know why it's such a thing. Because this has happened before. It's mine. This has happened before.
It's okay.
It's all
It's
good.
okay. As long as it's
That's part of the show.
As long as if it was Lana,
Because
that'd have been an
everybody get
issue.
healed up.
Yeah.
Everybody get
I
choked
have
out.
random alarms for no reason. Why would an alarm happen at 1:55?
I'm the same way.
I
It
never
might say-
turn them off.
Yeah, it might say eat. Or
I get
something.
it,
So
right.
now I
Something
need to go
random.
turn them off.
Have snacks.
Right.
So yes, I would like to address that. This is not the first time this has happened. So I don't know why everybody's up in arms right now.
And you had some major collaborations. I mean, Maverick City, Lecrae, Nicki Minaj. So you give us some.
Yeah. So I here's, and I can only speak personally. I can only speak personally about my calling and what I'm called to do. And I feel like it is such an applause to the kingdom of God, where people will say, I'm going to risk my reputation and influence. Because think of it that way. Glorilla's a big deal right now.
Yep.
So to say, I want to reach out to some gospel artists and do a song with them, I think that is so cool for gospel. I think it's a great opportunity to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to a group of people who may not ever buy your gospel record until after they've heard you on Glorilla, which I've experienced that myself. Doing the song with Nicki Minaj, oh my God, people sent me to hell. They said I sold out. They said I was a part of all kind of whatever.
Illuminati.
They said everything about me. But at the end of the day, I knew what God told me to do. I knew that I had an okay from him, and that settles it. I would absolutely do it again. But years later, I would receive DMs from people who sent me to hell now saying, I understand what you did. And I apologize for the way that I responded because I just didn't understand your calling. Sometimes we have to understand that it is up to the individual. The Bible says to work out your own soul's salvation. And so it may be the assignment of Kirk Franklin and Maverick City and Chandler and all of these other guys to walk out their salvation in a way that it'll put them on a BET platform. Glorilla gets the award, but God gets the glory.
Wow.
How we can't lose that. We can't lose that. At the end of the day, who got the glory? I hate that we're only talking about the moment of the awards, because I think we should be talking about who closed the show. Like, they had one of the greatest gospel artists in the world, Kirk Franklin, closing the BET Awards. That is so big for the kingdom. But instead, we got stuck on who got the Bobby Jones Gospel Award.
Right.
Let's talk about the award being named after Bobby Jones.
What's wrong with that?
It's amazing. But instead, we're talking about Glorilla when we should be saying, man, a legend in gospel music has an award on the BET show that is named after him.
Yeah.
Now, do you think she was deserving of that award? Because I think that's the issue. Some people feel like it's so many hard-working people in gospel that are putting so much time and effort in, and essentially Glorilla dropped this single and she wins the award. So what's your thoughts on the aspect of the deserving part of the award itself?
I think we have to look at the facts. I think we look at the facts. The facts is that the song did very, very well.
Yeah.
It streamed very, very well. No shade to anybody else who did a song that year. But when you look at the facts, which I think, the BET Awards is not a church. It's an award show that tallies up numbers and looks at, streams and things of that sort. And again, she had some of the largest gospel artists in the world on that song with her. Yeah. So they also win a BET award for that. So I think at the end of the day, my answer is yes. I believe that the BET Awards, just like every other award that night, it went to the person whose song had the most exposure that year.
There you have it now.
I'm curious about you too, because it's a lot of music artists that come from the church, right? Countless amounts that come from the church, but they don't always choose to stick with gospel. Yeah. So you personally, was it anything in particular with your talents why you said, hey, you know what, I'm gonna stick it out with gospel?
I'm gonna sing about Jesus.
Yeah, right. I mean, and the reason I ask is because because the thing, when you choose the other side, it's a lot less judgment to come with that. Right? A lot less responsibility.
Sometimes a lot more money and opportunity in many cases as well.
I'm just not good at it. Okay. I tried. I'm not. So listen, here's the story. I was in college and I was at Albany State University in Georgia.
Oh, dope. Okay, cool.
You went to Albany State?
I didn't know that.
I went to Clark Atlanta my first year, and then I transferred to Albany State. Yeah.
That's what's up.
You a real
Georgia
peach.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a real peach. I was born and raised in Georgia. So
there we go.
So I was in the gospel choir, and I was connected to this producer who was doing like a song for this rap artist. So I went to the studio. They was like, we just need somebody to sing on the hook. And I was like, okay, I'll try it out. I've been in church all my life. I'll try it out. So I went in the studio. We did the song. So the song ended up, I don't know if y'all remember this. So Ludacris, back then he was Little Chris. He had a radio show. Look at me teaching history. Come on, somebody. That's how your face. He had a radio show that they would call Dig It or Diss It.
Yeah.
Dig It or Diss It.
I remember that.
Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
So the song ended up on Dig It or Diss It, right? Everybody called in, was like, I'm digging, I'm listening. I'm in Albany listening like, oh my God, these people are. I thought I did a terrible job. Like, I was like, this sounds so bad. But honestly, after that, I just didn't get fulfillment from, even with everybody saying they loved it, it didn't fulfill me the way that I would feel when I would get up and sing and see people with tears streaming down their faces, experiencing a life-changing moment with God. And so for me, it was more so about the fulfillment of purpose than it was to chase after the money or the fame.
I thought you said you wasn't good at it. That's not. You sound like you was good at it. You just.
I wasn't good at it to me. I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think it sounded. I just didn't like it.
And how old were you at that time?
Probably about 19.
19 years old. Wow.
Yeah, sophomore in college. I was about 19.
That's a big decision to make.
Yeah, but what's crazy is because I know you said you weren't fulfilled by it, and I can imagine that most people
The
probably
rapper's
like
name
that.
was Gunja.
I don't know. Right, first off, you already
That's
know
all
he
you
was
need to
on.
know.
You already know what's popping up in
That's
that
all
studio.
you need to know.
It's like,
I had no
got it.
clue what
Right.
it meant that time. I had no clue what that meant until afterward. I was like,
Right.
there's no way.
Definitely, God, he wasn't in the booth with y'all that night. He wasn't there.
He was.
He won't.
But and I listen to my fair share of different varieties of music. I'm kind of working that out right now. But It's nothing
You got a
that
ratchet playlist.
right. Of course, it's nothing that fulfills me. Just even as it does, like I would say, godly music.
Yeah,
Right. Just like
yeah.
when you reading a book or when you watching a movie, if it's godly, it's gonna fulfill you a certain way.
Right.
But I think often you just generally as a person, you may make the decision to go for something else. Do you think that most artists who did come out to church and now they moved into other varieties of music, that they probably experienced that same thing? Hey, this does not fulfill me, spiritually like the gospel did, or more healthier music. But hey, look, I prefer to make a living this way.
No, I wouldn't say that. I feel like different people are called to different things. That was just for me. So I think of artists like a Fantasia. I feel like Fantasia is absolutely directly in her calling. I really feel that. Like no matter what Fantasia is singing, you're gonna feel God in it. I don't care.
That's true.
And she's eventually gonna take you there in her set every single time. And I feel like that's a part of her calling. Same thing. My husband used to play for Anthony Hamilton. He was his MD for years. And every time I went to an Anthony Hamilton show, it never failed that there was gonna be a moment where Anthony made sure that everybody in that room knew who his God was.
I love Anthony Hamilton.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are people who are called to certain arenas who have an anointing for that. It just wasn't mine.
Understood.
So, and then you have like for me with the Nicki Minaj thing, I think there are some who like she's doing this and she's Nicki. Like, but I felt like she had right. Like in conversation with me, she said to me, I want this album to be the first album that I expose my relationship with God to my followers. Like, I think that was such a divine moment. And I was honored to be asked to be the platform that she would use in order to do that.
That's incredible.
So
Yeah.
you named, you kind of named, the Anthony Hamiltons and the Fantasias, but it's R&B something way different now. It ain't.
It is.
I ain't gonna lie. Based on Anthony
I'm
Hamilton,
43. I'm 43.
yeah, that's like gospel music compared to this new R&B music.
That's like gospel music.
Let me tell you something, and I'm exaggerating, but you feel it's a metaphor. You see what I'm saying? Because I heard I think it was Jermaine Dupri talking, and one time he was talking about the reason. He made a statement saying the reason R&B has gone so left and there's no love in the music, there's no connection in the music. He said because these singers are not in church anymore. They're not coming
out of the choir.
They're not coming. The church birthed many of our R&B singers that we know, respect, and adore. And they saying that's no longer a thing anymore. These guys just kind of coming out.
Wow.
They the YNs. The YNs grabbed the mic and started to sing. So,
oh my goodness.
do you think that there's any level of truth to that, or what's your thoughts on why the sexualization of R&B is just at an all-time high right now?
I do believe that there can be an absence of God. You have this generation. I think people are coming back to church. I know we talk about it a lot, but I believe that there are like new leaders who are coming up where people are like, I can relate to him. I can relate to what she's saying. Yeah. So I feel like people are coming back, but there was a generation, there was a gap there where there were kids who have no clue whatsoever of who God is. I gotta revisit the Glorilla thing because I don't think that group will ever be able to experience God if people like Kirk don't continue to insert themselves into those platforms. Because who else gonna talk to them about it? Like, I think that group gets to see, they might be listening to a Glorilla record and suddenly Kiara Sheard voice pops up. What? Like, I've never heard this sound before. And it may give them a hunger to want more. But I agree that there was a generation of people, and I appreciate people like Maverick City because I think during the pandemic, they had something special on them that they were able to speak to a group of young people who didn't have God. And for some reason, they received songs like Jireh and, all of these songs that they would sing. So I feel like there's hope. Now I'm not very familiar with the R&B you talk about. Like I know SZA and her, and I think they wholesome. Now you think it's oversaturated.
You said wholesome or wholesome?
He's so sick.
Wholesome with an L. So, but I do have teenagers.
Yeah.
So I'm
Because they could be a little bit of both. It just depends on
They
the song.
could be a.
Right. It's a little mix. It's a little mix. They working it out. They working it out.
It's,
But to answer that question, I agree. I agree that there was an absence. I don't feel like hope is lost though. I don't.
Well, you know what? I mean, you in the industry too. That's why I wanted to ask and get your perspective on this, because this is a big conversation.
It is.
Happening right now, and I actually really respect your perspective on honestly. When I heard it, I was like, first of all, y'all, the first thing I thought was it is the BET Awards.
It's the BET.
I'm like, do y'all think pastors got the vote?
Right. Right.
Like what? I mean, I just really didn't expect much holy. Going on.
Right.
And
this I thought
got as holy as possible.
Glorilla
and it really
Kirk
did.
Franklin.
Kirk. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree.
That's like, it's the BET Awards, y'all. Like, let's watch the Stella and let's see what's gonna happen.
For them to put Kirk up to close the show, I thought that was huge.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I don't want all of this fluff to overshadow that moment. Like, that was a huge deal. And he killed it. Like, Kirk killed it.
It was iconic. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, it always is with Kirk. We had the blessing to share the stage with Kirk Franklin too, just recently at Blavity Fest.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. Well, let's share the stage as in the same event.
Yeah, same event. Yeah,
we gotta get our time a little closer to main stage time.
Right.
Yeah.
We had like they had like tents where we all stand.
Uh-huh.
And Kirk had like the mansion tent.
Right.
I got it.
Like
we had like a little section.
It was a little section
He
there.
had a whole 3 tents put together.
3 tents.
His was a 3-bedroom.
Right.
It was a 3-bedroom.
Yours was a loft.
Yeah.
Fans in there, snacks in there. We all kind of just shared the same low level snacks.
It was close. Yeah.
Kirk had the good snacks.
Right. It's levels to it though.
It is. It is. We're working though. We're working.
Yep.
I'm really excited though. Tell us about this this next project, the first ever self-named project that's coming into the world. Tell us about this
First studio album. Right?
Studio album. Speaking of Kirk is on my project. I got Kirk
Kirk
on there.
on the project?
Excellent.
Oh yeah,
Excellent.
I'm gonna drop this one. I got John Legend on there.
Oh.
Y'all the first people I ever said
It's
it.
exclusive.
Legend.
It's exclusive or highly
Another one.
initiated.
Yeah. We're
There we
gonna
go.
be rocking with this. Yeah.
Okay.
This album though, so I talk about that season with the miscarriage. And so I was trying to find my way back to relationship with God. So I was trying to listen to music, listen to podcasts, listen to sermons. And I just felt like all of it was giving truth. It just wasn't speaking directly to me. So it'll be like these promises. You're going to be good. Everything going to be good. I know all of that, but I'm not going to be good tomorrow. My heart is still going to be broken tomorrow. I'm still going to be crying tomorrow. I need some honest worship. And I just could not find that. And so I did this writing camp for this project, and I called all of these amazing writers together. We did a week in Nashville, and I would just sit down and tell them stories about my life, and mainly this one. And I told them, hey, I want us to write songs that speaks to that person who may be struggling right now with their faith, speaks to that person and gives them language with just them and God. Like if I'm in a car, just drop the kids off, and I had to put on a mask for the kids so they don't know what we're dealing with. And this is so many people's story. As soon as those kids get out, you go straight back to that worry. How am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to take care of this, take care of that? But this album, it speaks directly to that. Like it speaks to that tug of war in your spirit between your human instincts or your human thoughts and the spiritual you. Like I really felt like there was an absence of intimate worship. And I don't mean, and I've been so used to singing to the masses, leading the masses in worship, doing live recordings in front of thousands of people. But this one, I really felt like I was called to be your personal worship leader. Like that song you can turn on when it's just you at your house and you have a concern that's weighing on your shoulders, and you put on a song like one of the songs that we wrote. It literally starts out saying, "Okay, Jesus, it's the day after Amen," and I thought you would have come through already. Like it's that serious. Where Kenny was like, "We're saying the quiet things out loud on this record, like the stuff that we feel like." We were talking about this earlier. Like this is worship.
Yep.
You know, this is real worship. It talks about, it's so many songs on there that one is talking about broken pieces. Like it says, you take broken pieces, put them back together. When I'm in your hands, I don't need to be whole. Like that comes against a lot of people's theology.
Yep.
Because we're thinking like your friend you were talking about, let me put myself back together. But when I'm in your hands, I don't need to be whole, because when I'm broken, I know that you're close. Like, it's songs that speak directly to people in their seasons. And I called it Tasha because I remember when I was a little younger, Karen Clark Sheard, she put out an album called Finally Karen. And I always wondered, why would she call the album Finally Karen? But now I get it. There's a place where you come to in life where you feel like, now I understand who I am. I'm solid with who I am. I'm anchored in who God is. And this is that moment for me.
Woo!
Wow. You know what's crazy? That just resonates with me because we was reading Genesis. And I want to say, who was it? We was talking about, it was, I think it was chapter 22. But he was saying, I am here. Help me out, Lionel. Can you help me out with that? Y'all making me look bad.
I definitely.
Anyway, we was reading this thing, and I just wish I could say who it was. He was telling God, he's like, I am here. And it just took him a while. And I was just thinking about that. Like, you have to put yourself in position to be that ultimate level of vulnerability. Whereas, like, you finally are open to what God is saying.
Yes, completely.
And he's been trying to communicate to you this whole time and trying to get you to this deeper level this entire time. And it's finally just recognition.
Yeah.
So that just reminds me of that, like, you having your self-titled album, Tasha, like,
Yeah.
Now you open for it. Open
Yes.
for all the instruction, all the blessings. And I know that's coming your way.
Wow.
That's
Thank
just
you.
really incredible.
Absolutely. We got some. We having a tour in Atlanta or something like that. That's going on.
I do have a tour coming out. So it's a tour with me, Naomi Rain. This one is a little different because I have a therapist on the tour, so it's gonna be all kind of stuff happening. It's called,
therapist on the tour.
Yeah, her name is Cobbs Campbell. So she'll be coming out and we'll be doing some sessions with the people in the room where she just kind of, because I feel like a lot of times people can come and we get this rah 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 moment, and when we leave the room, you go back to life like it was.
Oh, you
Yep.
healing.
Yes, so
Y'all
it's
about to have
called
some
Whole and Free. Whole and Free.
Incredible breakthrough.
Yeah.
Y'all about to have tears,
Oh,
shit,
got you.
everything.
October,
Yeah.
yep.
So the tour's happening in October.
Yep.
Okay, so
October.
the pre-sale ain't opened yet.
It opened today.
It opened today.
Yes.
So go on.
Yo,
ahead.
Coming to
drop
it.
it. Yeah, click the links in the bio for the
Coming to
album and the
ATL.
pre-sale.
Yeah.
That's
Hopefully,
what's up.
hopefully Harley Initiated gets something special. You know?
Yes, let's do that.
Harlan.
Let's do that.
I like to put
Need
people
that.
on spot on camera.
Need
you know
that,
what I'm saying?
right.
That's how you do it. You got to use the
Tasha
platform
promised
now.
us. She promised us now.
Yes. I want y'all to be there.
There you go.
Bring,
I like
bring
that.
everybody.
There you
That's
go.
what's up.
Lionel,
Thank you.
Lionel needs some gospel music
And
too.
when I come to Atlanta, I'm
Sure.
serious. I want y'all to come.
Yo,
Of
we will.
course.
Yeah, that's guaranteed.
Yep.
Of
Yeah.
course, absolutely.
Called
That's
Whole and Free.
whole and free.
Yep.
There we go, y'all.
Yeah.
So listen, y'all are getting, this is the kind of music we need now. So y'all better go ahead and support it. All right. A lot of y'all be doing more complaining than supporting.
Come on.
All right. So go ahead, get up on this project.
Yeah.
The music is out. It's on the stream. It's gonna hit our streaming platforms.
Yes, all streaming platforms.
Okay.
July 25th.
July 25th.
That's right around the
So
corner.
let's stream it. Let's show up to the tours. Let's support the movement because this sister is really working. All right. For the kingdom. All right. For the right side. She almost, when she was 19. She Ganja almost took her.
Ganja
Yeah.
almost had me.
Ganja almost had her, but she stayed.
and-
If you watching Ganja, I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Y'all are
Hey,
silly.
so listen, thank you guys so much for
Tasha, thank
this
you.
was fun.
Oh,
Thank
this
you
was
so much for
awesome,
tuning
y'all.
in.
You dope, for real.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
real
Absolutely,
cool.
this was a
Real
very,
cool.
very
Y'all stuck
fun
with me now.
interview.
Y'all got a new sister.
Woo! And
like
she said
that.
she was.
I like
she
that.
said she had to pray before she. Like, I don't really
I did.
know.
Y'all, I was scared.
Well, we get into some conversation, so
It
yeah.
get real. It
Yeah.
get real because that's how we listen. First of all, we need that real right
Yes.
now. The culture doesn't want fluff.
They don't.
They don't want anything that doesn't feel authentic.
That's right.
I'm talking about the skepticism
Yes.
and the eyebrows at an all-time high right now with everything going on right
That's right.
now. So, that's what we just really want to bring the realest conversations possible while still being able to keep God and transformation
Yes.
present.
Yeah.
And this ain't church, but some episodes it'll feel like it. Which is really good because we want our people also to get that healing. So thank you for everybody that made it this far in the episode. Please continue to subscribe so we can be attractive to guests just like Tasha,
Right,
Cobbs,
right,
Leonard, y'all. That's important. Them subscribers, everybody that hits
Make
it,
us look good.
it make us look
Yeah.
good. So when we email them and they look, they be like, all right, them boy doing something. They doing something. I'll check it out. All right. So hit the subscribe and support us, guys. Thank you for every supporter that supported us monetarily and especially thank you guys that went ahead and got the Renew the Mind journal. We got a couple more in here, guys. When the inventory is gone, it's gone, but it is still here. And I'm telling you guys, the pages are absolutely prompted for you. We got a morning routine creation exercise in here for you. I mean, it really, if you follow what the Renew the Mind journal, actually the plan it puts you on, it's absolutely transformational. So go ahead and get that as well. And y'all already know how we do it. Hardly initiated. We are out.